Welcome to the Indie KidLit podcast. Join Marty Dumas and Elena Page on their quest to help children's and middle grade authors find the right audience and sell more books.
Welcome back to the Indie KidLit podcast. I'm one of your two fabulous hosts, Elena Page.
And I'm Marty Dumas, and today we are joined by the fabulous Charnaie Gordon. Charnaie is a computer programmer by day, a wife, a mom 24/7, a blogger, an influencer, a distinguished Toastmaster, which is actually a thing. So that's like really flying, like side props for that. A go-getter, a volunteer, a thinker, a hoarder of information, and a lover of books for kids. In a very short time, Charnaie has built a following of over 20,000 people on Instagram who eagerly look forward to her book recommendations. And we are so excited to have her on the show today so that we can learn about what she does and what's happening that's so cool with books and children's books in particular over on Instagram. Welcome, Charnaie.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, that's really cool. I'm excited that you're excited because you have when I first became aware of you, I think you actually got in contact with me and I was like, what is this thing? I had an Instagram that I had set up 2 years ago maybe, but didn't have any posts on it. It was good. Okay. So I went over and I was like, oh my gosh, this is fly. Oh my gosh, she's got 10,000 people on this thing. What is she doing over here? I was like, that's really awesome. So could you tell us a little bit about that? What is it that you do, your day job bit, but then how did you get pulled into this whole blogger, book? Yeah.
Okay. So before I actually started the blog that I have now, Here We Read, I had another blog, and I was just blogging about, what was I blogging about? It was kind of more like a lifestyle blog at that time. And I was talking about different things that you could do with your kids, but I wasn't really feeling it. And I've always loved writing in particular and reading. So I had this idea. I was already reading lots of books with my kids. So I just had this idea. I was like, well, why don't I start a book blog? And it really just started as a way for me to keep track of all of the books that I was reading with my kids. And then also to give other people recommendations, because people constantly was asking me about different book recommendations for their kids, books that they wanted to read. And so I just came up with the idea. I was like, well, let me just start a blog. And at the time when I started the blog, all I had was the blog. And I was just new to this whole thing. Not really new, because I had already had a blog for 3 months prior. But I really just had a blog at that time. I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have Instagram or anything like that. And I just had the blog for about 6 months. And then it wasn't until about 6 months in that I discovered Instagram. Because somebody said, well, you should probably start an Instagram account. And I was like, well, what's Instagram? I really didn't even know anything about it. And once I got on Instagram, I saw that there was this whole book community. And I was really amazed by that, because I was like, oh, wow. So there's other people doing this. And then I started to get deeper into it. I found out that I should branch out and maybe start a Facebook page, and that you can write book reviews for people and stuff like that. So I was all really excited about all of this, which really just stemmed from the idea of me keeping track of books that I wanted to read with my kids. And now just fast forward. So I've been doing it for three years now. Yeah, just over 3 years.
Right.
And it's turned into what it is now, which is really more of a huge community of book lovers, people who are just passionate about especially diverse books, because that's what I decided to start to focus on, because I saw the need for it. And it's just really kind of taken off. And, people are embracing it, and I'm just so excited about it.
So wait, I want to pause you real quick there because
Okay.
you said a thing that's like so casual that I find that people who are natural connectors and influencers, and you can say whether you feel like that applies to you,
Okay.
right? But like,
Right.
I feel like people who are natural connectors and influencers say things like this all the time that I'm
Right.
like, wait, how did that happen? Like behind the scenes. So you said
Right.
before you even started the blog, you said that people were constantly asking me for book recommendations for their kids. Like what
Yes. Yeah,
people? What constant? Like where do they come from?
Right. So what I mean by like friends, family members, not just random people like, emailing me, nothing like that. It was more so people that I know personally that were always asking me, oh, well, what should I read with my kids? People that go to my kids' schools because they know that that I read a lot of books. So it was people that I already know, not just people.
But you had like built up a reputation somehow organically with these people as like a person who was in the know about this kinds of thing. Like
I did, and it really started honestly with Instagram. When I first started Instagram, like I knew nobody, and then I found my way through, like, and I was like, oh wow, there's a bookstagram, and they call it bookstagram. So there's this whole bookstagram community on there. And I was just like, oh, wow. So this is a thing. And, I can do this. So that's really how it started. But I think once I hit probably about 3,000 subscribers, from there, it literally just kind of started taking off. Between people sharing my content, one of the biggest things, the most exciting thing that happened to me was, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Myleik Teal. Do you know who she is? Myleik Teal? Okay, so she's the founder of a subscription box called Curlbox, but she's also just an entrepreneur as well. And I had the opportunity to interview her over the phone, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, Myleik wants me to interview her about some podcast worksheets that she had. And she's like one of my idols. So when I had the opportunity to speak with her, this was back in 2016, I believe. And so I interviewed her, and she's very, very popular. Like if you look her up on social media, you'll see that she's like has thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. But I interviewed her, and she shared my content on her page. And then that day, I'll never forget it. That day, like all these people just started following me out of nowhere. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And at first, I didn't realize that Myleik tagged me in her post on her page. So that was like my first big thing, where like just people just started following. Like I think I got like 1,000 followers. So it's like things like that kind of kept happening. That kind of, and between that, giveaways, and then just people word of mouth, really.
Okay.
So
kind of that seems like, because a lot of times I'm gonna slow this down a little bit again, right? So then it sounds like, or hold on, I'm gonna recap and then slow this down. So it sounds like I feel like one of the things that happened was that you like ended up connecting with another influencer, like a person who really had a huge following, still has apparently a huge following.
Exactly.
So a huge following, and then that like sort of sent people your way. But before that, you said that people were just slowly starting to follow you.
Correct.
And that once you hit about 3,000 followers, then people like really started to follow. So can I ask you a question in that time period? So there's you with your brand new Instagram account. And if you were like me, then when I like made mine, it was like 12 people that were like my friends on Facebook or something, right? Who like crossed over. So then you from your brand new Instagram account to 3,000 followers, what made you keep doing, like what made you keep posting and doing? Because this is not, I mean, I guess it is sort of your family's account too, but it's like very specifically
Yeah.
branded Here We Read, like, which is adorable name, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what made you like keep posting and stuff before you had a ton of followers? Like, did you just know that it was going to happen eventually, or like, what's up?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was more, I just enjoy it. And I think when you're, you know, like people always say, when you're doing something that you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. And that's really what it is. It's like when I'm finding great books, I get excited. It's like, oh, I love this. Like, and I just want to share it, you know? And so that kind of gives me the motivation to keep going. Because I know if I love it, other people are going to love it too, you know? So it's not, and also I love to write. I like to just be creative. So I think that kind of helps too. And then of course I love to read. So it doesn't really feel like I'm doing a whole lot of work per se. It's really just me sharing content that I think other people would enjoy. And that's where it comes from. Now, don't get me wrong. There are days when I just want to just throw in the towel. I'm just like, I've had it. And that kind of comes from, you know, people who don't really know how to approach you. They think that, oh, well, hey, you're talking about books, then, you know, review my book. Or
okay. Wait. Okay. So I have this like way later for questions, and like it looks like Eleanor's like nodding her head very fervently. But no, let's do it now, right? So then that's a thing that makes a slow day for you, where you're like, oh, I wish I weren't doing this. So let's dive into that, because our audience is mostly authors, right? I mean, I'm assuming like 100% authors, children's book authors and middle grade authors. And so, and maybe the odd person who just thinks we're cool and wants to hang out with us, whoever that weirdo is. We love you, weirdos. Okay. So, mostly it will be our people. Elena, we'll claim them. Elena and I will. It will mostly be our people who are doing that thing that you hate. So can you just, with all the love and also like the annoyance of the day, can you just tell us what are the things that you hate when people approach you? Okay.
Of course. So first of all, if you know my name, if you don't approach me by my name, then there's nothing for me to like really, there's no reason for me to go any further. That's number one. You also have to spell my name correctly. I've gotten so many emails with people who will misspell my name. You can't have any typos in your email, because that to me is like, you're not taking the time, even if it's just a brief, 2-sentence email or whatever, take the time to like really craft a really nice email. And, I think with social media, people think that they can just talk to you any sort of way. It's hiding behind a screen. And I just don't, I still kind of like a little level of professionalism, like don't just approach me saying, hey, review my book, or hey, post my book on your page, take the time to address the person by the first name, make sure you're spelling it correctly, introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about your book, send me the link so I can take a look. Maybe a cover image, just give me a little bit, and it doesn't have to be like a 5-paragraph email or anything like that, because I don't have time to read through all of those either. But keep it nice and brief and concise, introduce yourself, and just be professional. That's really what it is. And I think for the people who don't take the time to do that, it just sends the wrong message to me, and it irks me, to be honest. It's like, just, I don't know, just have some sort of common courtesy.
Yeah, it's probably equivalent in Facebook groups. It's equivalent to the people that join the groups. You know what I'm about to say, don't you, Marty? They join the groups, and the first thing they do is they just stick their book up.
Yeah.
They joined an author community.
Might be in buying my book.
Right. You might be just saying, here's my book. And we're like, first of all, we don't know you. You just joined. Like, we're a group of authors. Like you, we probably might like to read your book, but the way you just stuck it up there like that, it's dumb.
Yeah.
There's not Sorry, I just called everybody dumb. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
It's like, it's just frustrating. And it just makes you not want to kind of help everybody, you know? It's like, as much as you want to, it's like, if people can't approach you with some sort of level of professionalism, then, you know, I just don't want to be bothered, to be honest. And I think a lot of people feel that way. But I just think this whole thing about social media is like, people just think that they can talk to you any way that they want, you know? And I don't like it.
So what do you think it is about Instagram and the bookstagram community that is so powerful? Is it just because you can see the images of the book covers? Like, what do you think it is that's grabbing people's attention?
I think a great photo and a great caption about the book really captures people's attention. And when you show a little bit more of the book than just the cover. So that's why now I try to take pictures of the inside, because some people, you know, like to see that kind of, okay, well, the cover looks great, but they want to see how many words are on each page, you know, on average, how many words are on a page, so they can kind of say, oh, okay, I think that'll be appropriate for my child or for my student. And they want to see the illustrations to see what they look like. Because a book can have a great cover, but then when you open it up, it's like, oh, well, you know, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So I try to like share the cover and maybe write a really good summary of the book, and then show a few photos of the inside of it as well. Some people also do video. So some people will show like a video, like a flip through video of the book as well. I don't really do a lot of that, but I have seen people do that as well, and it seems to be effective.
Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of engagement on your page. So I know that you have a lot of followers, which I'm sure helps with having a lot of engagement, but even still, like just looking at the percentage of people who interact with your posts on Instagram, like tells me that you have actually built up a community and not just a bunch of people who are right. So then can you talk about that a little bit? Like,
sure.
What is your community? How did you build community in like an online space?
Sure. So so once I first joined Instagram, I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, I didn't know anything about hashtags or anything like that. So I learned kind of my way around. And once you start, well, this is how it worked for me. Once I started using specific hashtags, like hashtag bookstagram or hashtag kids bookstagram, then I could see, okay, other people who were using that hashtag as well. And it kind of led me to their pages. And I was like, oh, so this person does this, and these are the types of books that she specializes in or he specializes in. And it's really kind of just relationship building, I think. That's what I did. So I would reach out to certain people, or people would reach out to me. And right now, like I have my own little, kind of like a tribe of people, of all bookstagrammers who we all kind of are in like a little chat group, if you will, but we all support one another. And we're just in community. So I think just from reaching out to people who were doing something similar as me is how I kind of really built community. I just wasn't shy about it. If I saw somebody's page that I liked, I would introduce myself either via email or via direct message and say, hey, I like what you're doing. I think we can work together and support one another. And that's really how it started. Because I think that's what Instagram is, right? It's like this social platform where you kind of have to interact with people if you expect other people to interact with you. You can't just be on there scrolling through all the time, not really interacting with anybody. That's not what social media is about. Social media is about being social, and that's what I kind of found. It's like, if you're kind to people, if you reach out to people, you'll get that in return. So that's really kind of how it really started for me, like the whole community.
Yeah. So do you still like, I always wonder about thresholds, right? So like, I am not a millennial. Like,
Okay.
I'm like, whatever, like a little bit older, like a little bit too old to be a millennial, but my niece is only 8 years younger than me. And so, and she is a millennial. So like straddling. So like the difference between the way that she thinks about social media and the way that I think about social media, I feel like is really like the difference between a true digital native, which is her, and me, right? So like for her, it's really, it makes a lot of sense. It's normal and it feels really natural to really have like her online interactions or like virtual interactions with people like are essentially equivalent, right? Like not that she doesn't still go and hang out with her friends, but like she does, like she's like, that counts. Like it totally counts, the interacting with people that I interact with online, and they're like genuinely my friends. So the thing that I always wonder and I ask her about, and she can't answer me because she's in it, is what's the limit? Like how many people can you genuinely interact with and like actually genuinely be interacting with them? So like you've got 23,000, I think I checked a few minutes ago, 23,000 people who are following you. Are you interacting with 23,000 people?
No, not at all. Not at all. So I think, and I don't know, don't ask me how the Instagram algorithm works. You know, there's that whole piece of the algorithm thing that I just don't even understand. But I probably out of that 23,000 people, I probably interact with maybe 30, 50. No, maybe about 50, because I created I have another Instagram account as well, which is bookstagram Choice Awards. So I basically came up with this idea to have my own book awards that's hosted basically on Instagram. So I came up with this idea like last year, and last year we had the first inaugural Bookstagram Choice Awards that was hosted on Instagram. So I have, like last year I had 22 people in the group, and this year I have 25 people. So with those, I keep in contact with those people. And then like my regular followers, probably have like another 30-ish or so, who I genuinely kind of talk to, probably not always behind the scenes, but we're commenting on each other's posts or, via email, something like that. But probably about 50 or so people.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I mean, at a certain point, like you notice it, or I notice it anyway, when I look at, cause I do like numbers. Is that, at a certain point, like the number of people who are following a person, like dramatically exceeds the number of people that the person is following. So like, if I pulled up your Instagram page, I bet it would be that you were following 1,000 people, but you have 23,000 people following you on that account. So then like, there's a point at which people there's a point that it crosses over, and my math brain wants to figure out like what's that point, like what's the breaking point, because then like that's something that we could think about, right? Like that's, as authors, like that's something that we could think about. We could be like, okay, I right now maybe only have 300 people on my Instagram, but as I'm like talking and interacting with people, once I get to this point, maybe it'll be kind of a tipping point, and then it'll be maybe, I don't want to say less work, because it seems like you put a ton of work into this whole thing that you got going on. But like the kind of thing that's probably like at a sustainable level, as opposed to like maybe the building seems like it probably takes a lot of time and energy. I've been talking a lot, I realize, and Elena is scribbling away, so that probably means that she's got questions. Elena?
No, I've always got questions. So what I'd love to know is how do you like choose which books? Like, there must be, like, there are so many out there.
Yes.
Do you only review like the ones you like? Do you not review the ones you don't like? Like, how does all of that work?
Okay, so when I first started doing this, I was primarily just featuring library books, because like I said, I didn't have a following it really at this point. And I was just going to the library getting books that I liked, that I wanted to read with my kids. So it was really just library books at that time. And some books that we had at home on our own, that we owned. And then somehow, and people just kind of started finding out about me. Publishers started to reach out to me. And, again, people ask, well, how did that happen? And honestly, I don't know. Like one day I just got an email from a publisher. This is like, oh, well, we want to send you, we follow you on Instagram, or we came across you on Instagram. We want to send you books. So like, okay, sure. So now we get a ton of those. So literally now it's at the point where we don't really buy books because we get so many. But there are, there are times when I still buy books, and I still go to the library with my kids every week. But now mostly it's books that we receive from publishers. Occasionally also library books that I really like. There are authors who will reach out to me, or have reached out to me in the past, I should say, because now I don't really do that as much anymore, just because it kind of got crazy. Just books. I mean, seriously, if you saw my bookshelf upstairs, you'd be like, oh my God. And the kids' bookshelf is just out of control. But it just kind of gets to a point where it's like, you can't review everybody's book. You can't say yes to everybody and everything. So I've kind of had to scale back on a lot of things. But now I just feature books that I really, truly like, which I've always done. I've always featured books that I really, truly like, whether they be library books, books that we purchase from a bookstore, or books that we receive from publishers or authors. Because I don't promote things if I don't like them.
Okay. Yeah. So this was going to be my question is, when you get a box of books from a publisher, like,
yep.
Are you essentially contracting with them to review all those books, or are you just like reading through them and deciding which ones are actually worth your time to review?
Exactly. Looking through, deciding which ones. So there are times when you can now request, like I can request books that I want. Like if they send me a catalog or whatever, they say, look through this, see if so I try to, if there's something that I really want and I specifically request, then I'm definitely kind of not really obligated to, but I kind of like to give my word. So if I request a book, then I'm going to review it, but if it's something that I didn't request and they just send to me, if I like it, I'll post it and I'll review it. If I don't, then I won't, because I can't do everything. And I think a lot of bookstagrammers will say the exact, like even the bookstagrammers that are in my tribe say the exact same thing. It's like, if we reviewed every single book, we wouldn't have time to do anything else.
So what do you look for in a good book? Like, like there are weeks where I like read books and go, oh, I hated all of them. And then I'll read them, a month later and be like, God, I love that book. Right. How does that work in your brain?
Yeah. So the first thing that I'm attracted to, and they say not to judge by its cover, but I'm attracted to a really nice cover. As bad as that may sound, it's true. Like if I see a cover and I'm like, oh, that's a nice cover. Like I'm intrigued. Not necessarily I see it and I say, oh, that's going to be a great book just because the cover is nice. But I'm just attracted to that. And then when you open it up, of course, it could have a really nice cover and then be like a not so great book, in my opinion, or it could be a killer book.
And what's the difference? What makes a killer book?
So what makes it for me? I love books with great illustrations. I don't particularly like the cartoony kind of illustrations as much. as I do like a hand drawn or a hand painted or something that looks, I don't really know how to describe it, but not the cartoony.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying when I say
Yeah.
cartoony?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And it's nothing, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not as attracted to that as I am something that's not that, if that makes any sense. And then the message, especially with picture books. Picture books to me, well, let me just show you this one. This book right here that I have. Can you see the?
Oh, they're getting a plug. They're getting a good plug.
What if?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It comes out, this one comes out in April. And this to me is like an amazing book. So I'm not going to tell you, well, I can tell you what it's about, but it's about a little girl who she likes to create, right? So she likes to draw, she likes to create. And it starts off by saying, let me see, I forgot the exact words. With a pencil and paper, I write and draw art to create many stories that come from my heart. But if that pencil one day disappeared, I'd fold up the paper till stories appeared. So it kind of keeps going. And then she says, well, and then if I didn't have the paper, then I would use this. And then if I didn't have that, then I would use this to create. And she kind of keeps going and going and going. And then in the end, it's like to the day, hold on, because I just love it so much. Oh, as long as I live, I will always create. As long as I live, I will always create. You know, so it's really just a book about a girl who she loves being creative, and she realizes that she doesn't just need a pencil and a paper to be creative. Like I can use a chair and I can be creative. I can use a cup and I can be creative. And it just shows, I don't know, I love just the message of you don't need to be like if you want to create art, you don't need crayons, you don't need a pencil and paper, you can create art using anything.
So it sounds like this is really connected with you personally, which is such a great thing to highlight here, because you started off the interview at the beginning saying that you like to create. You said, I'm creative, like I like to make things. And so then there was this one blog, that one wasn't as much fun. So then I needed to create a different thing. So it sounds like the book connected with something that is in your soul, which is a great, I don't know if it's a reminder, but it's a great thing to be able to say out loud to authors, because where a book might not connect with you, right? Like someone sends you a copy of their book and you don't have that reaction.
True.
Someone else might have that kind of reaction to
their book. True. That's true.
There's an element of the personal in that. That's really cool, right?
That's true, right? Yeah, and that's a great observation there too. So yeah, I think I really personally connected with this book because I am a creative, because I love arts and I love reading, I love writing, right? So it really resonated with me. The other thing that I like about this book, apart from just the message, the illustrations are amazing. And then in the back, there's an author's note where the author tells about why she created the book, how she came up with the idea. Basically, her apartment was flooded. And at the time when she wrote this book, her apartment was flooded. She didn't have a place to live. And she kind of thought, well, how am I need to write this book, but how am I gonna create everything? Everything was destroyed in the flood, you know? And that's how the idea about the book came about. It was like, if I don't she's basically saying, I don't have anything right now. So how can I be creative? You know, and she kind of came up with this whole idea. Well, if I don't have a pen and a paper, then I'll use a table. You know what I mean?
So that's amazing. Yeah, that's like that's that personal thing again, right? Like that's a really personal story.
Yeah, and she brought it home really. Like she tied it all together in this author's note. And then the illustrator goes on to say when he met her, she was basically homeless. You know, she didn't have a place to live. She was going through this flood. She told him about her idea for her book. They made a connection and the book was born, you know. I just love it. And I like when authors include a little bit of a backstory to kind of tell you why they wrote the book, how they came up with the idea. And it doesn't, you know, again, it doesn't have to be a long drawn out thing. But I do like that because then it makes you see the book in a different light, right? Because when I first read it, I loved it just because of the story. I loved it because of the illustrations. And then at the end, when I read the author's note and the illustrator's note, I was like, oh my God, it just made me see the book in a whole different light. And I wanted to read it again. Because then it was like, I'm reading it through a different lens. Like, oh my God, this lady was homeless when she wrote this book. And so amazing that she came up with this idea when she had nothing, you know?
Yeah. So this is, for me, like sort of boiling down one of my like takeaways from our conversation so far, which is a thing that's much less scary to me than talking to 20,000 people at one time, which is making like personal connections. I like people. People are cool. One at a time, you know, maybe two. Right. So it sounds like, but like it sounds like that the author and illustrator both did a good job of making a personal connection or reaching out, trying to make a personal connection, even like when they're not present, like beyond the story. Like, and that's like, that actually makes me think of so much, but it also bounces back to what you were saying about introducing yourself to the person, like making it both professional, but also like a little bit personal. Like, who are you? And like, why are you being in touch with me here? So like if somebody were starting out right now and wanting to sort of be able to reach out and be in touch, maybe not with you particularly, but with other bloggers or just in general, like people on Instagram, connecting with people on Instagram, what would you tell them that they should do?
Well, like we already said, definitely do your research. At least take the time to visit the person's, if they have a blog, take the time to like research, read something that they wrote, maybe that resonated with you. But take the time to just look to see what they're about. Take a look at their review policy. Some people have a review policy. I personally have one as well. But take the time to look, to find out about the person before you just kind of say, hey, review my book.
And I'd imagine there's a lot of different kinds of books. Like, you know, from what you were saying just now, you like certain types of books. And essentially, you know, your Instagram blog is about the books that you like, you know. So, and then people follow you because they will unconsciously also like those same sort of books, right?
Exactly.
Which sounds so simple when you put it like that.
Right.
But if someone hasn't bothered to look at the sort of books you like, or read the sort of books you like, and then stick their book in front of you, I imagine you're like, what is this? You know, like that sort of thing. You know,
and it's not that, it is not that I discriminate per se, like against, you know, because I'll read anything. I honestly will read anything. But it's more like I just have a particular, now, especially that I built up this audience, people now only want to see diverse books on my page, you know? So for me to feature, you know, I don't know, trying to think, a graphic novel, right? People are probably not going to resonate. Like that's probably not going to resonate a lot with a lot of people, or myself. Like I don't particularly like graphic novels. I just never have. But yeah, so for me to throw one of those on my page, people would be like, well, what's this? You know? So
Yeah.
So, like just trying to like I'm trying to figure out like how, like if I were telling somebody how to reverse, like and let's just say, you know, for giggles, let's say me, right? Like if I'm trying to tell somebody, you know, air quote somebody, how to like reverse engineer this process. I think the first thing that I'm thinking of, just based on what you said so far, is that I might go to, on Instagram, I might go to one of the hashtags that you mentioned, like hashtag bookstagram or hashtag kids bookstagram, and then start like looking and seeing whose books seemed like, who the things that they were posting seemed like things that either I was excited about or that I'm excited about because they're like similar to the things that I also do. Yep. And then what would I just like stalk their, is there like a stalker protocol on Instagram? Like would I just like stalk their page and like just like a bunch of their stuff and then follow them? Like, is that a bad thing on Instagram? Is that a good thing on Instagram? Like what's the
you're talking about as like an author or as a
let's say as an author, because most of our audience is authors. So yeah, as an author, would that be creepy to you if somebody like all of a sudden had like 20 likes on your page, like in a row?
No, not at all. Not at all. That actually happens a lot. So no.
Okay. All right.
Do you, sorry, Marty.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
Wow, it took us 50 minutes for me to say sorry, Marty, this time around.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's not bad.
I've improved. I forgot my question, so back to you. That always happens. That always happens too, in case you're wondering.
Okay, so I will say a thing, but then you just interrupted me when I was getting in there. So, so when you're doing that, right? Like, is my next step then that I am like commenting? Am I like does somebody going in and liking your posts like sort of make you look at their account reciprocally and think, oh, maybe this is also a person that I want to follow? Like what's the
No, okay. So if you're an author just starting out and you're trying to maybe approach somebody who is a bookstagrammer, right? Or even just a blogger, book blogger. I would say the first step is just to go to their website if they have one, and check out what they're about. And then if you like it, if you think that your book, they might be interested in your book, send them an email. That's it. Like you don't have, I mean, I wouldn't say, oh yeah, start commenting on my posts and then liking, you don't have to go through all that. Just send me an email, and just kind of introduce yourself. That's really it.
Okay, cool. So like we can take the stalker step out of that. Like that doesn't, it can be
Yeah.
a lot shorter.
Right, that's it.
All right. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Like I have that down. So then I can say that for me, like I didn't realize, because you don't know what you don't know, right? So like apparently like people were like, you know, writing about my books on Instagram when I wasn't on Instagram, which was like hilarious to me, right? I mean, because then like after the fact, like when I'm not good at it. I'm definitely not good at it yet. Like I'm just like learning about it really. But like when I figured out, I was like, oh, like if you search your name, right? And I was like, oh, holy snap, there's all these all these mentions of my thing and I wasn't even here. So like, I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but like I think that like it's a thing that that authors should like go in and check out, because like there might be this whole world, like you might already have a community of people out there who are already thinking about your stuff and talking about your stuff, and you just maybe thought you were just like being lonely like over in a corner somewhere, and maybe you're not.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Search your name, search your title of your book. Because I do that a lot. Like I'll post something and I'll just, do hashtag and the name of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another way to find out too.
All right,
So
cool.
do you ever fall in love with particular authors and follow them on Instagram? And if they release something new, you check it out because you're a fan of them? Do you do that as well or not really?
Oh, yes. Yes, all the time. Yes, for sure.
Great. Okay. Now, this sounds like a mean question.
Okay.
I just want to preface that in
Okay, I
advance.
will tell you that you don't have to answer whatever Elena's question is. And usually I'm the person who asks the mean questions. So then this is a true role reversal that's happening right here.
Well,
Now go.
like, what I want to know is, like, you know, like in everything, like from an author's perspective, you know, like we're told, chase this shiny ball, chase that shiny ball, chase that shiny ball. And sometimes those balls don't necessarily translate to, I don't want to say sales, you know, because like sales is one aspect, but you know, like real genuine people, like readers. Ultimately, we all want readers. So my question is, like, so you're posting these fantastic books and people are commenting on them and loving them, but do they actually really go buy those books or follow those books or follow those authors in your, I don't know, you may not even know the answer.
Right. I don't know the answer. I will say that a lot of the times I'll post a book and people, you know, will put it in the comments, just purchased or pre-ordering now, or, you know, thanks for mentioning this. I'm going to put it on my list and I will purchase it. So people do say that. Whether they do or not, I don't really know. But I will say also that I have an Amazon affiliate account. And so sometimes when I'll post a book, I'll say, you know, the link to purchase the book is in my profile. And I do, you know, see that some people, and I don't, there's no way to track to say, okay, when I posted this book on my Instagram page, 10 people went over to Amazon and purchased it. Like, I don't, and I'm sure it's probably, there's a way to figure it out in Amazon, but
It's complicated. It's not straightforward.
Right. And I was like, I don't really have the time to sit there and do that. But I'm sure there's a way to do it, to figure it out, but I just don't know.
Yeah, but ultimately, if you're such a, you know, like that influencer person, if, you know, like, you know, Charnaie says that book's good, you know, your really vital fans will be like, bam, you know, like, gotta go get right.
For sure. Right. Yeah, I mean, they'll put it in the comments. They'll say ordering now or buying, you know, right now. And some people, I don't know if they really do or not, but they say it quite often. So.
Yeah.
Do you only ever post one book once, like each book once, or do you revisit them sometimes, or just one post?
Usually, well, okay, so if I come across a book that hasn't published yet that I think I'm going to like, or that I think other people will like, I'll just post the cover of that page and say, you know, coming soon. And then when the book actually publishes, I'll actually publish it again. So I do stuff like that. But as far as books that I'm trying to think, probably usually only once, because I'm like, once I review it.
Move on. Next book. How many books a week do you do? Like a few?
I try to be consistent, and I try to post at least 5 to 6 books per week.
Wow. Yeah. That's a good amount of books. It's like a book a night. So your kids are like smart. Your kids are going to be like, they know every book. Like,
we go into the bookstore and they're like, oh, Mama, we have that. We have that. We have that. Because we do.
Like, correct. Yes. Good job. So I think one thing that I'm curious about with you too, and also we're almost out of time, but so Elena, get your last, we're almost out of time question. Get that together. So one thing that I feel like I've noticed is that
I said you two are hilarious.
We're definitely a double act.
We enjoy each other, or at least I enjoy Elena. I can't speak.
Same.
Okay. But so we okay, so when I am so again, my Instagram is, I am new to Instagram, so like I maybe I don't know how many followers I have. It's not that many. It's certainly less than 1,000. So but sometimes I notice that people go back and like a bunch of what I think of as old posts. So like when you look at your Instagram, like I don't even know what you call it, like your notifications section, I guess. It puts a tiny picture of the post in the side, and I'll be like, when did I? Oh, that was a long time ago. So I think that that's maybe one advantage of Instagram, that it's a reason that I actually have started to spend some time on Instagram, because unlike Twitter, which I'm also like, I'm just terrible at Twitter and will always be terrible at Twitter because I'm not going to try to be any better at Twitter. Is that okay? Because like I feel like I say a thing and then it just like dissipates into the universe. And I have like a few people, like maybe 3 or 4 people who like catch it and like put like a little, Twitter like on it or whatever. But like, what does that do? And it's like, and it's just gone. Like it's just it's gone. So that, but like nobody ever goes back and like likes a bunch of my old tweets on Instagram. That doesn't happen. I mean, on Twitter that doesn't happen. But on Instagram, people do go back and like really old posts sometimes, which I'm not sure if that means that Instagram sometimes just like kicks a post up, or if they find you and then are just scrolling back through your feed and find old things. But I feel like that's like it's useful, much more useful than Twitter in that sense, particularly because we do have all these book covers and like very visual things to be able to have a place where a person can discover you where they are. And be able to discover quite a lot about you pretty quickly without having to migrate over to your website or your Amazon page or whatever. Do you find that to be the case? Like, do people scroll back and find old stuff of yours also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then that maybe that's maybe for authors like that would be pretty useful. And I don't know for sure if any, because I don't put selling links on anything in my, I don't put selling links on anything, but I will say that I had quite a few people who ended up like writing reviews of my books who were on Instagram, right? Like who, and which is something also to say. I haven't actually done the numbers on that to say like a percentage, but so far it doesn't seem to be like shouting out into a black hole. Like so far it seems to be like interacting with people who maybe, if you're saying the things that are true about you and that maybe it's like talking potentially to people who will also want to hang out with you over time. So that's, I feel like for authors, it's like maybe even a better thing than Facebook, which I actually think is really good for authors. I know a lot of people don't think that Facebook is good for authors, but because even Facebook, like the posts sort of decay over time. Like you don't go in the same way that you can go to Instagram and it's really it's really beautifully visually laid out, right? The collection of posts, like it makes it easy for you to scroll back and look at a bunch of things that the person, like I was all late to the party about Vashti Harrison, but then when I saw her stuff, I scrolled back for months worth looking at her postings, right? So then, that's an opportunity that like on Facebook, you wouldn't go that far back in some authors. Even if you stalk them all the way to their page, you would not be scrolling way back deep in their posts on their Facebook page. So so there's that. All right. So Elena, what was the last question? You got it.
I have 2.
I knew you would.
Thank you. So my first one is like, what people post is, so important. So, for example, you as an Instagram, book lover, have been posting about all other people's books. And so tomorrow, which would, is just an idea, you may already be doing it, but, you release your book, right? And you release your book into your own feed and everyone's like, well, we love her. She knows the good books, so we're going to buy her book, right? Which is fantastic. Right. So if you haven't done that already, I think you should, first of all, at some point in the future. But, you know, when you look at other authors' Instagram accounts, you know, and I'm sure you follow, as you said, some authors, you don't want, I'm assuming, to see them always promoting their own book all day long. Right. What sort of things do you look for? Like what sort of person they are? What are the things they're posting about themselves? Like what, and remembering authors are listening to this podcast, and you're an expert on Instagram. What sort of things should authors be posting?
That's a great question, because I think authors are always kind of between projects, right? Projects, I think that you guys are.
Yeah.
So you have this kind of lull where you may not really be posting on social media because you're busy writing. So I think maybe at that time you can use your posts to get people. What I like when authors do, or illustrators, is they get people excited about what's coming next without giving away too much of their current project. But I kind of like that kind of build up, if you will. Not necessarily so much about like their personal life or their personal family, unless it's relevant, unless you can find a way to kind of make it kind of relevant to your books or your writing. I don't think a lot of people want to necessarily see like a whole, people like separate, like they like your personal life to be separate from your author life, if you will. And sometimes I see authors who kind of jumble everything all into one, which is fine if you can make it work. But I kind of like it when, if you're an author, or if you're just an illustrator, you're just posting about your illustrations. If you're an author, you're just posting about your books, so what might be coming next. I kind of like it that way. Some people may not. But I think you can use that as an opportunity to maybe post about your books, you know, kind of build, like I said, build some sort of excitement about what you have coming up next. Maybe you can, I've seen, I can't even remember who I'm thinking of right now, but there's an author who she'll post about, you know, books that she's written years ago. And maybe it went into like its 5th printing or something like that. Like, so she's basically constantly celebrating what she's already written, but like new things could be happening with her book that she's like, you know, making everybody aware of, like, hey, you know, my book is in its 5th printing. Do you have it yet? If not, maybe, you know, and it's an opportunity to grab some new followers who may be new to her account, may not have read her book 3 years ago when it first came out, and they're brand new to her page. And it's like, oh, hey, you know, thanks for following along. Did you know that I wrote this book? And, you know, so I think it's an opportunity to keep publicizing your older books, even though if they might not be brand new. But I think there's a way to kind of still be creative about your current content that you've already written, that may resonate with new people that are just now following.
Yeah, great suggestions. Yeah, really good suggestions. Yeah, the thing about, you know, other people, your personal life.
Can I just say one more thing?
Absolutely.
So I think what Vashti did is with her book, Little Leaders, she also made like a coloring page, you know? So again, it's something small, but it's an added way for readers to connect with their book. Like, hey, if you don't have my book, well, you can make your own little leaders at home, you know, print out, and you can do a free download of a coloring sheet, make activity sheets that may correspond with your book. Just like I said, think outside of the box and find other ways to be creative with the stuff that you already have. I think I've seen a lot of authors do really well with that. They constantly find different ways to connect different readers to their books, you know?
Fantastic. Okay, my last question.
Okay.
Is my last question. So, and it's probably a big question. It might be a little question. You decide.
Okay.
Hashtags. You know, I hear this word everywhere. Hashtags.
Yes,
and I'm like, what do we do with them other than, you know, like think up things on the spot? Like, do we research, look up hashtags and start, like you said, obviously that popular one, like the bookstagram. Are we meant to be doing that every time we post?
Okay, so here's the.
You gotta collect yourself. You gotta emotionally.
So here's the thing that I found with hashtags. Like I said, when I first started Instagram, I didn't know what I was doing, and I knew I understood that I needed to use hashtags because I saw other people doing it, but I didn't know what hashtags I was supposed to be using or anything like that. Then, you know, once I said, you know, I started finding community within Instagram, I would see what other hashtags people were posting who were doing something similar. So I started doing the same thing. And now I use an app, actually. Is it an app or a website? Hold on, I can, I don't remember the name of it. Yikes! It's
okay, you can tell it to us after, and we can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, So it's not an app. It's a website that I go to now, and it basically you just type in one hashtag, and it pops up with a list of all of these hashtags that you may want to consider using. So it does all the work for you. It puts it in a format, so all you have to literally do is copy it to your clipboard and paste it. So it makes it that much simpler. But I did do a lot of research about hashtags when I first, a little while after I joined Instagram. But I basically just kind of used what I saw everybody else using, and that's really it. So what I've kind of heard about hashtags, and I don't know if this is true, but I have heard that Instagram is thinking about doing away with hashtags eventually, because everything is moving now towards artificial intelligence. So that means your pictures are going to become much more important than using a bunch of hashtags. But that's in the techie world. I don't know if it's necessarily 100% true, but that is the word, is that Instagram is testing all this artificial intelligence behind the scenes, and that they're going to eventually do away with hashtags.
And is there hashtag what's the word I'm looking for? Like three questions. Sorry, Marty. I know I'm so bad. But it's a follow-up question. Is there the question is, I forgot my word, you know, like I'm like an 80-year-old, I forget everything. You know, like, is there like etiquette? That's the word. Is there a hashtag etiquette? Like, I see some people using 500 hashtags and I think, oh my goodness. Or, you know, should you do 5 or 10, or you can do what you like? Is there an etiquette around it?
So Instagram allows you to use 30 hashtags.
Okay.
30 is the limit. And I try to use as close to 30 as possible.
Okay.
I do have different lists of hashtags that I use for different things. So like if I'm posting a quote, I'll use, you know, hashtags related to quotes. If I'm hosting a book, it'll be stuff, you know, if I'm doing a post about my kids, it'll be hashtags related to kids, you know.
Okay, one more. 4th question. I know I have so overstepped the limit. This is my last question, I swear. You know how you can make your own hashtags, right? Like you can have, so like, do you ever use the books hashtag or not? So it's not worth having it. In other words, you know, like whatever the book name is, if it had a hashtag, would you use it if you were posting that book up? Is it worth having?
Yes. Yeah, I do that. Because I think that's a thing that most bookstagrammers do, is they'll post the hashtag about the book title. You talking about the book title?
Book title, yeah, book title,
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Yeah. I am done, officially done and dusted. It has been fantastic.
And the hashtag thing, it sounds, because it's like you're trying to connect with as many people as you can. So it sounds like the kind of thing that you want to find a thing that a lot of other people are doing. Like you don't want to be unique. and be, or do you want to be like unique and be the first person to have a hashtag, like a particular hashtag?
It depends. So if it's for like, if I just have hashtag here we read, which I think I do have that hashtag. That's another way for people to find you. So I think that's okay. Like if you're using it for branding purposes, and if you want like a quick way of people to find you, like you could do hashtag Marty Dumas, you know. So
yeah, awesome.
All right. Okay. All right, cool. So it has been really, really good to talk with you. I feel like in a lot of ways that I have more questions now, which is okay, because that's like a I also just said, well, I'll probably be messing around with like how important is this? Like there were people who were talking about like sort of starting to talk about my books on Instagram already. Like maybe I should just let them do their thing and me just be on the side, like not trying to join the conversation or whatever, but I'll work that out on the side. But it has been like super good to get to talk to you. It really has my wheels spinning. Where wheels turning, I guess, not spinning. Where can people find you online?
Yes, I am Here We Read on pretty much all social media platforms, Instagram, obviously, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, I believe.
Oh, wow. Pinterest. Yeah, I haven't even touched that. Pinterest.
And then on my blog. I'm also a contributing writer to Brightly. I don't know if you guys follow Brightly. But you can find my work over there as well. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. And Here We Read, we'll put it in the show notes too, but Here We Read is we like little, right? Like
correct.
W-E-E,
W-E-E, yeah.
Yeah, very cute, very cool. All right. And Elena, where should people look? I always get it wrong, so she has to do it. Elena, where should people look to find us online?
So you're going to look at the show notes this week because you're going to want that hashtag website, which is great. So listen carefully because it is www.indiekidlitpodcast.com.
And if you haven't already had a chance to, then we would love for you to leave us reviews. I mean, we prefer the 5-star kind, but I mean, if you need to leave less than 5 stars, I mean, do you? But like 5 stars is the best one, so you can do that. And we will see you next time.